AITA for not telling my ex-boyfriend and our parents we had a BO child that I gave up. I got pregnant in college. My periods were always irregular, so I didn't find out until too late. My country has a cutoff for abortion at 3 months, unless for medical reasons, which it wasn't. I tried to arrange to have an abortion abroad, but in the end it didn't work out. I've been chubby since childhood, so I managed to hide the pregnancy until late. I never told my ex-boyfriend, nor my parents, fearing they'd want to keep the baby. The only person who ever knew was my best friend, Daniel, who swore never to tell. I told my parents I was taking a sabbatical after graduating and disappeared when I was visibly pregnant. Daniel was studying to be a nurse then, and he helped me give birth. Fortunately there were no complications. I have birthed to a healthy baby girl who I dropped in a baby hatch. I know from the local news that she was safely found. Fast forward 18 years. I get a call from my mother. Apparently my ex-boyfriend was looking for me and found my old landline number, which led to my parents. So I contacted him, and he was seething on the phone. Apparently our BO daughter had found him through one of those DNA services. Ex has a brother who is big on genealogy. Apparently, he's absolutely livid. I did not tell him of her existence. He said he would have tried to make it work, which is exactly what I feared. In the meanwhile my mother also caught wind of it. My mother is crying that I deprived her of a grandchild, and my dad is just stuck in a look of how could you. Basically both my ex-BF and my family are calling me, guilt-tripping me, and giving me abuse. As far as I know my BO child was lovingly raised by a family that wanted to adopt. I felt I did the right thing to give us both a better shot at life, and I think I was right. I think that if I had told they would not have let me adopt her out. I was over this for years. But this is tearing open old wounds. But AITA for not telling any of them my BO daughter even existed. It may be an unpopular opinion, but yes, AITA for not telling your ex. If you were giving the child up, then he should have had the option to be the sole parent to her. It was his child to. I'm all for your body, your choice, and had you been able to have an abortion I would not say that you would have had to or should have told him. That would be completely your choice. But once you choose to actually have the baby, even if that reason is simply because you can no longer get an abortion, then I believe the father has every right to know you robbed him of the chance and choice to raise his daughter and know her. That was his choice to make for himself. It was not yours to make for him. But you went ahead and did it anyway. So, yes, for that AITA. I think you articulated that in a way I couldn't myself. This is a very complex situation, but I think my verdict would boil down to the same points you outlined. AITA. My vote on AITA too. And I feel sorry for the ex-BF. Boy, that's hard. In a tough situation like that, it's really difficult to judge someone for doing the best they know how in that moment. Maybe I'd have done something differently, but maybe not. Are you the asshole? No, I really don't think so. Are they the assholes for being upset? No, I really don't think so. Some situations are just hard for everyone. Give yourself some grace. You did the best you knew how to do then. Give them some grace as well. They are just now dealing with something you dealt with years ago. AITA. From your comments he wasn't abusive. You were not afraid of him or your life. Thing is, after you couldn't abort, you had every right not to want to raise a child or even be in their life. But your ex-boyfriend had every right to want to raise a child himself with his parents. You took his child away from him. Maybe he would have agreed to your plan as a scared 18-year-old and lived with the decision and be prepared for her to try and find him one day, or maybe he would have found a solution with his parents and the child would have at least had one biological parent and set of grandparents. But he will never get over this anger and betrayal now, even if it was an impossible situation back then, because you never gave him the chance to work through that decision process. You could have handed over 100% custody and moved out of the area and never see her again. And yes, it would have probably been harder, and your parents may have wanted to raise the child or be involved in the child's life if your ex had full custody, and that would have been really hard on you mentally and emotionally. But sadly that doesn't take away what he is going through or the fact that she had the need to want to find her BO parents. It is good she had good adoptive parents, and it's good she has managed to find her father, and hopefully they can build a relationship now. I'm sorry for the very tough situation you were in. But yes, YTA, he had a right to know he had a child. He may have wanted to take sole custody, or wanted a relationship with them, and you don't get to make that choice. You've deprived him of 18 years of contact with his own child, and he has every right and reason to be wildly angry about that. I hate this, but YTA for not telling the person who is 50% responsible for the creation of that child. I'm very feminist, but it's really hypocritical to force the father of that child into a fate you chose without his consent. I understand your fears, but you didn't have to stick around or be involved if he did choose to raise the child. You chose to be secretive, and I get that, but now you have to lie in the bed you made. I get why you made the choices you did, and 18 years ago it was a different world, but I still think a biological father has the right to know if he had a child. Just like a biological mother has the right to give that child up for adoption. He should have had the option to raise her. Sorry, but I have to go with YTA. He has every right to be furious. You cost him nearly 20 years with his daughter. Just because you didn't want your child doesn't mean that you get to make that choice for him. It sounds like you knew he would have wanted to keep and raise his child, so you purposely hid and gave away his kid without his knowledge. You say that you weren't sure if he could support a baby, and maybe that's true, but if he needed help financially for a couple years while establishing his career, then it sounds like the grandparents would have been more than happy to offer some assistance. When you knew that you couldn't get an abortion and that you were going to carry the baby to term, he deserved to be told the baby was his too. You could have still dropped out of the baby's life and had nothing to do with her, while not lying and hiding the fact that he has a daughter. Soft YTA, I understand that it's a complicated and emotional situation, but he should have known. Even if you said I'm pregnant, I'm having the baby, I'm giving it up for adoption. End of discussion. YTA, and it's a bit ridiculous how many NTA are in this thread. Once the baby is born, it belongs to both you and the father. Making this decision without him is cowardly and a shitty thing to do to someone. Also, dropping it in a hatch versus doing the work to make sure the baby is adopted is beyond tar behavior. It's not like it was an older child. That baby was adopted. The demand for adoptable babies is so high, I bet there were 100 plus couples lined up to take in the baby, all vetted through agencies. Unless the baby had severe health issues that were readily apparent, there was no question it would be easily adopted. Just saying, there was basically no risk of it not being adopted. YTA, I'm honestly floored by some of the judgments here. Once a child is out of your body, you have not more parental rights over them than the father. It's just as much his genetic offspring as it's yours, and you had no right to make the decision for him whether or not he got to be a parent. YTA, for not telling your child's dad. He's the child's father. He should have had the option to take custody and care of her or him from the time of her birth if he wanted, and you robbed him of that option. NTA, for not telling your parents. Not their kid, not their decision. Yes, YTA, you didn't make the child alone. You didn't have the right to make the decision alone. And you said you were afraid he would want to keep it. So clearly, your decision was about making sure you got your way, as you knew he would have an interest. Now, I support women making the best choice for themselves in cases of unwanted pregnancy normally, but not when they know the father would want a say and intentionally hides it from them so that he doesn't get one. YTA, it was the right decision for you, a hard decision, but you made the decision for your ex also, which is why I'm saying YTA. However, what has been done long ago, and there isn't much you can do to change it besides accepting responsibility and have an open, honest conversation on your mincer. Then your parents and his can feel how they want, but you didn't have any obligation to them, but you did to your ex. This wasn't to your body, your choice decision, exactly because due to laws, that option was taken away. So the child was born, and I'm not sure if the decision was selfish or selfless, because I don't know the circumstances. What we do know is that you did take away his right and his choice in the end, which makes you the asshole, and he has every reason to be pissed about this. Please subscribe.